Oh yeah, yeah, and I'm seeing us buying the rights to the Sarah McLachlan music. Yeah, yeah, yeah. In the arms of a
Yeah.
stranger, kind
Oh
of
yeah.
thing, played in the
No,
background.
Arms of an Angel.
Arms of an Angel. Yes, yes. There we
Arms
go.
of a Stranger. That's like, I
Yeah,
think that's a disco song from, the wrong side of the tracks. Anyway, doesn't matter.
yeah. That was the theme for my prom.
That's terrible.
Welcome again to It Doesn't Take a Genius, conversation with introspective perspectives and pithy points of view. Here are your hosts, my friends, Max and Marty.
I think that's Mark and Mike.
Yeah, whatever.
Ramsey!
Marshall, such a pleasure to see you again today. And I'm going to ask you to forgive me for any coughing that you hear because I'm getting over a cold. But we couldn't put this off any longer. We had to record this episode. It needed to be done.
Oh, there's so much good stuff percolating in our brains. We got to get it out. There's no doubt. And you got that kind of deep nasal, sensuous kind of thing going on there. So
sensuous. I get that a lot. That was actually an expression in my college. Hey, sensuous. And somebody would turn around. Sensuous up. Could you get me a sandwich?
Oh, that's cold. That's cold. Before we go any further, have to give a shout out, of all our listeners, both of them. 50% of our audience was in the hospital recently. Yes. Mark B. Butt is his pseudonym, and he had a little thing going on. It was in the hospital. They treated him. He's back out. So our 100% of our audience is back on point. So
we are excited about that, Mark.
Yes. Yeah. Get well, Mark. Stay healthy. We really need you. Big time.
Yeah. And in the meantime, I will say I was checking our stats, and we have now had 2,600, more than 2,600 total downloads since we switched to the Podbean service that we use to sort of broadcast our podcast. So thank you to whoever it is that's doing that. We have a relatively newer listener, Dale, who has been apparently not just listening, but also spreading the gospel of It Doesn't Take a Genius, which is appropriate because he's a pastor of a church with a big leadership team. So that's been nice. Thank you, Dale, for that.
Oh, well, yeah. We heard from another listener, and he was facing a very tough decision with a team member he was in charge of. And he reportedly listened to our episode on toxic high producers 10 times. So yeah, he laid awake at night listening to it, and then the next morning knew exactly what he needed to do, and took action, and excited to inform everybody. It turned out really well. So
that is awesome. And as much as we get excited about cool ideas, the whole point of this is to be practical and to give people stuff that actually helps life get better in the workplace. So that's awesome to hear.
Oh yeah, very cool. And I hear you've got a situation, a client that you're working with that we need to talk through.
I thought it would be good fodder because it's something actually you and I had talked about doing an episode on earlier, and it ties in with a story. I think we actually didn't strategize this very well, but I think you're going to share a story with a visual aid. Am I correct about that?
We will, and it'll tie into an episode that we're going to do a little bit later as well.
Pretend that I didn't say that. We can edit that out in post. So anyway, we don't have post. I'm post.
Yes.
I wait for the file to come from you, and then I start editing. That's how that works. And I'm not going to edit that out, by the way. It's just not going to happen. I can just tell you right now. So here's my situation: is I've been working with a client that has a goal of processing through a bunch of files, and I'm going to be very vague here on purpose. But they're going to process through a bunch of files, and they have a window. Let's say it's a 2-year window. Over 2 years, they want to get through all of these files. And almost every person in the office of this client has a role in doing that. And the issue has been, okay, so that's the goal. They have this goal, and there's a reason that they have this goal. But how exactly do we measure that we're making progress on that? And more to the point, how does the boss have conversations with the team to say, hey, are you on track? Do you have what you need? Are you doing the stuff you need to do to process the files that, it is our ultimate goal by the end of the year? So we're basically talking about, I think, 4 Disciplines of Execution, one of our favorite books. And I wanted to talk through sort of what are opportunities there.
No, I think that's fantastic. The first question is, does everyone that's performing these roles, do they know how to do these things, to do what they're assigned to do?
Yeah, good question. So again, we're going to be pretty vague here. So, some of these details may be changed for the sake of anonymity and for the sake of making it a podcast. But the general answer is yes. Do they understand the why? Probably, I would say not necessarily as much as, some more than others. That each of their roles not only has a big impact in hitting the goal, but it might be a baton handoff to somebody else in the office. So, what you do is going to impact what they do.
Got it. So it sounds like they have what they would call in the 4 Disciplines of Execution a wildly important goal.
Yes.
A WIG. So I've got to get through 100% of the files, and I've got to do it within 24 months.
That is 100% accurate.
And right there, that alone is amazing clarity. How many
Yeah.
organizations do we work with where they're trying to come up with some arbitrary goal and figure something out? What do I ultimately want to achieve and things like this? In this case, boom, we got it. 100%.
Yeah.
Of the files, 2 years. That's that's the celebratory point. So that's fantastic. And so now you've got to break that down into
Right.
lead and lag measures, as the book would say.
Yeah.
So the lead measures, do we have a tracking system for the lead measures?
We do not. And we should probably take a little time out here for the sake of anybody who has any kind of office, any kind of staff, to talk about what we mean by lead measures, because this is something that literally impacts anybody working with other people. Like if you work with other people, there is something here for you. And the idea being, great, you have a goal, you have this endpoint. You're I think the way the book puts it is that there's a start line, a finish line, and a deadline. I'm going to get to 100% of these files by the 24-month mark. Okay, great. That's easily measured, but it's sort of like what we talked about with SMART goals, that there are SMART activities that lead to the SMART goals. What are the things that you could do if you had to place a bet, a strategic bet? What's the one thing that you could do that would most impact hitting that goal in your role? And so, the question is, for each of these roles, what would that be? That applies to literally any team out there, that everybody has that one thing that they can do that most impacts that end goal for the team. Is that fair?
Oh, definitely. Yeah. And this is the part everybody struggles with. Got your lead measures, which are basically activities, things that are within the scope of the team member's control to do or not do. These are very difficult to measure in most cases.
We typically don't measure them.
Yeah, we don't measure them, and sometimes measuring them is subjective or requires us to create a metric, keeping tool. Whereas the lag measures, those are very easy. Often those are presented to you. In an organization, that could be your profit or loss statement, number of units sold, market share, whatever it might be. You don't have to go looking for those numbers. Somebody higher up than you will hand them to you on a consistent basis. Here's your sales report for last month.
Yeah.
But what they don't hand you is, here's your activities report, which is the lead measures, and the activities are what generate the lag numbers. And so, in our case, like in the automotive retail space, a service advisor, we're going to measure their dollars per RO, how much per ticket, how many one-line ROs, things, repair orders and things like that. What we don't measure is how many times do they present the additional work that was found that legitimately needs to be done, and the customer, how many times did they make the customer aware of that and ask for the customer's approval to go forward. Yeah,
Yeah.
there's no measure.
As of right now, there's no artificial intelligence camera in the corner of the service lane saying he did it. Nobody's keeping account of this unless they just manually, by good faith, keep account of themselves.
Mm-hmm. And oftentimes you see that's what happens with activities.
Yep.
Is we have to keep account of them ourselves. So especially when you're talking about office work,
Yeah.
Very difficult to talk about. In this case, it is interesting because I've got a defined file. The file has been broken up into multiple parts, and everybody's got a role to play in moving the file forward.
Yep.
And so now you're starting to see the creation of a game. A great video game has levels.
Yep.
This is a level 1 file, a level 2, a level 3, a level 4, a completed file.
Yep.
And so, now it starts to take focus in your mind. Okay, if I turn this into a game, if I can create a scoreboard for the activities and the progress of this file, ultimately I can focus on day-to-day activities that will ultimately lead to the conclusion of this 2-year goal.
And just so we're clear for our listeners, both of them, when you say a scoreboard, you literally mean a board with some kind of score on it. I mean, something on the wall that would be a visual representation of how we're doing at achieving not just the goal, but also the activity, the where we're at in the level, so to speak, to achieve the goal.
Oh, definitely. I think one of the greatest shortcomings, and we've talked about this in today's modern society, is the inability to see physical progress towards a goal.
Amen.
It's like a lot of people still like to mow their lawn. They could afford to have somebody else mow their lawn, but they still like it because there's that incredible gratitude as you're plowing down a row. All right, and it's unkempt here, and where I just been, it's smooth and uniform, and right. There isn't a person on the planet who, when they're done mowing the lawn, doesn't take that pause and stand there at the corner of their lawn like, I'm the greatest. I'm the Edward Scissorhands of landscaping. I'm the man. And in our current world, especially in the setting you're talking about, where it's an office setting, they can literally work a 10-hour day, and nothing within their visual field has changed one iota that would let them know that I've done something. This goes to my theory on adding machine tape in accountant offices. Every time you go in the accountant's office, there's an adding machine tape, and it's 6 feet of it laying on the floor of the and my instinct is to go over and tear it off. Just fix that up for you, tidy up this place. And they're like, no, this is my physical demonstration of I have crunched numbers, 6 feet of numbers, and I can walk and show people walk in and go, oh my goodness, you have worked so hard. Thank you so much. Glad you recognize.
I've done so much arithmetic today.
Yes, there was math and everything. So how do we externalize this into some sort of physical scoreboard, right? And every time we present this to managers always say the same thing. They go, well, it's in the computer. The data is all there. There's so many sophisticated programs in business now that I can go look it up on a spreadsheet or some sort of software that creates reports. But that's not what people need. Human beings need a scoreboard, right? The same reason we have them at sporting events. So what are we going to put on that scoreboard? And the scoreboard, according to the 4 disciplines of execution and our experience, should include the lag measures, okay, here's the end result, how close are we to the goal, and what's the gap, and that type of thing, as well as the activities. And so what are the activities, and how well are we tracking on our activities daily, weekly, monthly, whatever is applicable to the task that's going to ultimately change the lag measures.
So I've got my 4DX book in my hand. My well-thumbed 4 Disciplines of Execution book.
Oh, it is worn. Yes,
it is. I have used this book, and I thought it'd be worth pointing out. They talk about a couple of different lead measures. One is just what we said. They call it the leveraged behaviors. They say these are lead measures that track the specific behaviors you want the team to perform throughout the week. Like this is you do this, we know that we're going to get closer to that goal more than anything else. So how many times did you do this? The other one is small outcomes. And they describe this as lead measures that focus the team on achieving a weekly result, but give each team member of the team latitude to choose their own method of achieving it.
Mhm.
So, this could be different things for different folks. Again, we use automotive examples all the time, but one example of small outcomes is if you had a really seasoned sales force, maybe what you say to them is sell more used cars this month, this week, whatever. And they're just going to do that, right? Like they just know how to do that, or we'd like to sell more, some sort of financial product or insurance product. And they're just going to do that because they're seasoned enough. They know what they need to do to make that happen. And for some reason, the team has decided that if we focus on that thing, it's going to help us achieve our wildly important goal. So we're just going to do that. But there might be a younger sales force, a newer sales force, that it would need to be more block and tackle and say things like, we know that if we do a walk around of the product with the customer, we're more likely to sell. So instead of giving the team sort of like, take that hill, great, that'll be our wildly our lead measure for the week to achieve our wildly important goal. Instead, we're going to say something like, do these activities with every customer, and we know that will lead to taking the hill and the wildly important goal. That's maybe a long-winded way to say it, but it's going to be different for different teams, I guess, is where I'm going with that.
Oh, I think you're absolutely right, and sometimes it's not always for the new people. Sometimes even our veteran people. The book calls it the whirlwind, right? The everyday activities. You walk into your workspace, you got a plan, and the whirlwind hits.
Yeah,
you're right. The towel dispenser falls off the wall in the bathroom, and angry customer comes in, and then this happens, and then you got to meet with the vendor, and then the boss wants to have it, and all of a sudden, you look up and you haven't done any of the things that would move us forward in reaching our goals.
Yeah,
and so even the most veteran, stalwart knows exactly what to do, but staying focused on that activity is difficult when you're in the whirlwind.
That's really well said.
So the book, whether you're a young person who's not sure what to do, and this is the direction that you need, or you're a veteran who I know exactly what to do, but I need somebody to, some system to keep me focused.
Yeah.
Either way, it's a good thing. And so thinking about, how do we track these activities? The other thing that when you were describing the situation, okay, I've got to get through all these files, and once I focus on speed and completion, then there's oftentimes what happens to quality.
Yeah, accuracy suffers.
Yeah, so I've got to have some measures around accuracy as well. If I focus on speed, I'll get it done, but it's probably not going to be all that clean. It's going to be messy.
Right.
And so finding that, focusing on the balance between speed and accuracy. Now I got something. And so what is it that they could do in order to focus on, not only doing the work, but doing the work in a quality manner?
Yeah, you and I talked about this a little bit, and I think there's there's probably several different things that you could steal from the world of manufacturing, frankly, for processing through a file. It might be two people on the same file, so that they can check each other's progress. If we know that we have two people tackling a file at a time, we're more likely to catch mistakes. Or it could be somebody following up behind, maybe the boss, saying, I'm going to take a random, sampling of what's been produced this week and do a quality check, a quality assurance check. So those were a couple ideas that I think are on the table. I dare say there are other ideas.
Well, I think your ideas are perfect, and I think you add to that, it becomes part of the scoreboard.
Yeah.
So we're looking at our weekly accuracy. So we're gonna take 20 files a week to check them for accuracy. All right, did we hit all the steps? Is everything coded correctly or inputted correctly? And then we post the weekly accuracy score where we were 87%.
Yep.
And then we have our overall accuracy score, which is cumulative of all the weeks, where we're saying, and our overall score is 98% accurate. And we set a goal for that, right? We want to be 98, 99% accurate, with the updating of these files.
Yeah.
And so now I've got, I don't check them all, but just like you said, manufacturing, I'm pulling out random amounts. I'm doing it consistently. And that's the key part, right? The scoreboard helps keep you consistent because I know I've got to update the accuracy number once a week on the scoreboard. Yeah. So that just right there, I know what I have to do at some point towards the end of the week. I got to pull 20 files and check them.
So I have another client, and I'll actually use their name because I'm just going to plain old brag on them. Soft Shoe, name of a independent shoe and clothing store in Richmond, Kentucky. I encourage all of you to shop at Soft Shoe. Soft Shoe has an amazing scanning technology. It's called the Albert scanner, and it basically it's able to measure all sorts of things about your feet so that it can accurately assess what kind of insole you need. And I've never seen anything like it. Like the level of detail this thing gives is crazy. And it's really improved like how well my shoes wear as well as fit and how long they last and how I feel in them. It's really good stuff. But they've figured out, and this is actually something that the 4 Disciplines of Execution guys had early on happen with a big retail chain, was, if we can somehow measure feet, we're going to sell more per ticket. Like it makes sense when you hear it, right? Like you've got to measure feet to be able to sell things for those feet.
Right.
And Soft Shoe is a huge believer in customer service. They want this to be done the right way. The reason we measure your feet is because we're helping you. We can't serve you if we don't know enough about you to recommend the right kind of things for you. So they take this very seriously. They talk about it the way I just described it, the why behind what they're doing. And for a long time now, they've been measuring on their sales sheet, their weekly breakdown, foot scans, because it's a computerized system. So they have the ability to do that. Well, I wasn't sure how it was going. And I just met with the owner actually yesterday. And he said, oh, it's going very well. We're consistently, and I don't want to, give out exact numbers here just to, I don't know how proprietary this is, but they're world class. Of all the Albert scanners out there, they're top 10. Ooh. Like behind Disney World's location that has a shoe store that uses the Albert scanner. Why? Well, it's because they're looking at it on a regular basis, right? Everybody knows their numbers. Like we have a scoreboard. We're using a scoreboard. So it's a huge deal that applies to literally any industry. I mean, it could be an administrative office sitting in a room with no windows. It could be something as graphic as a retail floor that's literally putting shoes on people's feet. Everybody has something that they have the ability to look at in their numbers, but only if you figure out what those numbers are about. What are the lead measures?
Mm-hmm. No, I think that's fascinating. And if the machine wasn't tracking this, then yeah, you would have to track it, right? It would have to be tracked manually.
That's
and
right.
This can be this simple. And we've done this in businesses where each person keeps a tick sheet.
Yep.
If you do the activity, you make a little mark. You do 4 of them, and then you do the 5th one, you make a little line through it, which is very satisfying. And then you make 4 more marks, and then the other mark, and then 4 more. And then and at the end of the day, the week, the month, whatever it is, we tally them up, and we look and see, is there a correlation between, and I have to believe if foot scans go up, sales go up.
Yep.
So sales are a lag measure, foot scans are a lead measure.
Yeah. Customer service scores go up as well, by the way. This particular dealer shoe store has won, I want to say how many years in a row they've been a top 10 shoe retailer for the Trade magazine based on mystery shops. So consistently they have outperformed their peers on customer service.
Mhm.
I mean, everything benefits from being able to do this.
Oh yeah, people like dealing with people who know what they're doing.
Yep.
Yeah, and if you drag out some cool machine that looks like something I've never seen anybody else do, all of
Yep.
a sudden, yeah, my expectations, my customer experience is heightened because yeah, I've bought a ton of shoes. No one ever did this before.
That's right.
And so yeah, when you said you had Albert the shoe scanning machine, I thought Albert was a pseudonym for Al Bundy,
Oh,
the greatest shoe salesman in pop culture history. And I'm like, oh, they couldn't use Al's name, so they just tweaked it a little.
Albert.
I see what they did there. All right, so that brings us to the last piece of this, which everybody, at least most of the clients we work with, struggle with, which is the cadence of accountability. I believe is what for executions called, or for disciplines of executions call it. Where you have to gather around the scoreboard.
Yeah.
So we've got a chart. There's a wall chart, and it's got our lead lag measures, and they're updated. We have to gather around it, physically gather around the scoreboard, update the scoreboard, and then talk about what went well. What are still our opportunities? Where are we ahead, behind, things like that, and then talk about okay, what do we got to do this coming week in order to stay on track, get back on track, or stay ahead of wherever we're at. And there's celebrations. Right. And my favorite is when they let the team member color in the square or update the thermometer or fill in the whatever. So, put the gold star on the scoreboard. So yeah, I actually get to change the score, and I conducted the lead measures that led to that change in the score.
100%.
This has to be done weekly. The book talks about it's 15 minutes or less. It also
Stand
has
up.
Yeah, it's a stand-up huddle kind of thing. We're huddling around the scoreboard. And what I really like about it is the book talks about you can't have any other topics. This is not the point where you bring up, hey, we need to reseal the parking lot.
Yeah.
Like, this is not the reseal the parking lot meeting. That's important. Put a pin in that. Do my Hollywood producer thing. I'm going to put a pin in that for later. And we will talk about that. But in this meeting, all we talk about is lead measures, lag measures, the goal that we're working on, and what do we need to do to stay on track. And that's, everything else is excluded from that meeting. And that's why it's capable of being a 15-minute stand-up meeting, because it's insanely focused, and it's the scoreboard that focuses you.
So we talk a lot on this podcast about your book, Coaching Amplified, and the respect-based performance coaching method, which is, I would say, very similar to that accountability meeting where we're just, basically taking a moment to say, let's look at the numbers.
Mm-hmm.
What worked, what didn't, what are we committing to for next time? Mm-hmm. And this time it's on a weekly basis and as a group instead of typically monthly and one-on-one. The way RPC would have you do it, but either way, like you have to do something to where you're looking at the numbers so that they actually mean something, and you get a chance to say out loud what you're going to do next time. Oh yeah, it's no different, right? With a goal like this, it would be a 2-year goal. Oh man, my inner procrastinator is already thinking about pushing this off, and then the insane it'd be the 21st month of the 2-year goal. Push. Yeah, we gotta go, right? And quality goes to heck. So yeah, breaking this thing up and checking on it weekly. Right. I'm gonna have 104 check-in meetings, right? So that when it comes around, who knows? We may get done early, but it won't. What's that adage? Work expands to fill the amount of time allotted for it. That's right. So if the teacher gives you 6 months to write a paper, it's going to take you 5 months and 30 days. If she gives you the same paper, she gives you 6 days, it's going to take you 5 days and 23 hours. So whatever the time frame is, right, without this leadership, without this coaching, without this system, then our natural tendency is to let the work expand and rush towards the end. Yeah, I think that's spot on, and I'm really I'm really looking forward to working with this client. You gave me a lot of great ideas to help them sort of walk through that. And I think something that you've pointed out, and it hadn't really hit me until we just sort of had this conversation, is you can't really leave any of the 4 disciplines out. Right? It sounds good, like, yeah, that gave us enough of what we need. But the reality is that if you don't take it all the way through to, now we got to look at it, like make ourselves look at it on a regular basis, you haven't had the full benefit of being able to say, okay, we're actually executing. So I appreciate that good reminder there at the end. Big deal.
Oh yeah. The part I think everybody forgets, I've seen it get to the scoreboard phase. And then, when I ask, all right, how often are you gathering around it to celebrate, update, and gain commitment for the next, the next week?
Yeah.
Well, the whirlwind,
Yep.
the whirlwind caught us up. I had a manager was off sick, so-and-so was on vacation, and the world, right? Which is this system is designed to help you fight against the whirlwind.
That's exactly it.
And so, that last piece, right? We set the goals, we figured out what activities we need to do, we created a scoreboard, and it dies right there.
Yeah.
So just from our experience, it's that cadence of accountability, that weekly follow-up that makes this thing work, and it works incredibly well.
I predict that we do a follow-up episode in the near future about how do you handle when you have that meeting and the scoreboard doesn't look so pretty. I think that probably is on the minds of a lot of our listeners. So just put a pin in that, Mike, if you will.
That's 2 pins in one podcast.
Exactly right.
It's chock full of good stuff. No, I like this a lot. This is something real world, something we deal with all the time. Wish you all the best of success with your client. We're working on this. This is very exciting. Hopefully we'll get a progress update as well as this move forward over the next couple of years, which is a great reason. You don't want to miss any of these updates. You should push the subscribe button, hit the bell, give us a thumbs up. And if you're in in a church or some other organization, by all means, share away. Yeah. Don't just keep It Doesn't Take a Genius to yourself.
I have an upcoming PSA I'm going to produce with sad music and black and white photos of you, like Ken Burns effect, pulling over your face. For $0 a day, you too could help this man have a podcast that's successful. I don't know what it's going to say quite yet, but I'm going to work on that to give people further encouragement.
Oh yeah, and I'm seeing us buying the rights to the Sarah McLachlan music. Yeah, In the Arms of a Stranger. Played in the background.
Arms of an Angel.
Arms of an Angel. Yes. There we
Arms
go.
of a Stranger. That's like.
Yeah.
I think that's a disco song from the wrong side of the tracks. Anyway, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, that was the theme for my prom.
That's terrible.
All right,
John Wolf, where are you? Save us.
Yeah, save us, Mr. Wolf. Let's go to our announcer, an all-time greatest movie problem solver, Mr. Wolf.
And there you have it, another session of contemporaneous extemporizing from Mark and Mike. I know it's redundant, but consider who we're talking about. As always, feel free to share the ideas you heard here. No rights are reserved, no permissions needed. Thanks. See you next time on It Doesn't Take a Genius.
That's good enough.